Well, here we are again. It is a Saturday afternoon, and welcome. I didn't think I'd be doing this presentation at this time of my life, but here we are. And I think I can turn that off now. I'm going to try to use the technology that is available to me and share with you what I've learned. So get comfortable. It may take a minute. I realized when I got done, I had 20 PowerPoint slides. I went, ooh, or Canva. I'm not using PowerPoint, but welcome y'all, and just ooh. So where do we begin? Well, first let me introduce myself because I know I don't know everybody, and I put my name up as Phyllis Serene Raleigh, and Serene is the middle name that I have used on Facebook because it was the dominatrix name when I played, and I was Mistress Serene because that was the style of play I enjoyed and intended to do. And if I didn't enjoy it, then I wasn't doing it. And I have a policy as a dominatrix. There's a WIFM. What's in it for me? Why would I do something? Because you always get someone asking you, spank me, spank me. And I'm like, what's in it for me? It's exhausting. You sweat. I'm tired. I don't want to do that. So I've kind of been grateful to look at my life quite a bit that way and go, why should I do that? Why should I be involved in something? So I want to talk about conscious dying. And you're going to ask me, well, what? Well, this is a practice I've had, not just my death and my transition or my graduation, which I want to talk about, but I participated in deaf cafes and in Thailand and here in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. And it's been a grand experience being able to expand the conversation of where we are and what we're doing and why these different things matter to us now. So let's get started, and let me share with you my first slide, if I may, and I call this third dimension reality or graduation. And for me, why is this happening? Why am I addressing this information now? And it's been a long time coming, thank goodness. But and though I know I have been born under the luckiest signs of the planet as a Sagittarius and as a golden pig or a golden boar, um, my luck kind of runs out after a bit, and for me, I have gone through, this is my fourth time dealing with cancer, and at least it's a cancer I recognize, and the symptoms and the lumps came back. Oh yeah, I know this one. Health issues here in Thailand, which has worn down my immune system. And because I did chemo the second time I had cancer, that really wore down my immune system. And I had to learn how to move and change my life based on the exposure I had to pesticides and herbicides and Monsanto foods and bad water and bad air. So my sensitivity level made me like a canary in a coal mine. And so taking care of that canary became an important tool. And I left Los Angeles and moved to Thailand. And then from Thailand, I traveled to Bali and South Africa and Europe, other parts of Indonesia, looking for clean air, taking my Geiger counter with me and looking at radiation levels, water testing, reading everything I could to stay aware of my health because it hurt, basically. And I had the sensitivity if I was exposed to a pesticide. And it was my doctor who told me, you need to be 3 feet away from sugar. This was the first one that came into my attention. And when he said that, I went, 3 feet away. How can that be? And that was in October of 2010 when my third time with cancer had come back and was starting to show symptoms. And around Halloween, I was at visiting family members, and I was standing with my back to a bowl of wrapped candies. And my arm started hurting. And I turned around and looked back, and I went, oh, I'm within 3 feet. Got it. Okay. I need to really pay attention. So that became a new life for me. And so from 2010, 10 years later, I thought I did pretty good between that last cancer and now. I'm like, okay, I've managed pretty well. So in that time of going, okay, I've done that. And then I had another little factor, which I talk about, which I call it my booster shot. And that was having an electrocution accident that just stimulated everything, and it made dehydration and fatigue and exhaustion kind of be my everyday issue. And between the three issues, the body started wearing down and the organs started not functioning. And so, thank God, with good medication and friends that would help me with pain meds, and this is a town that has a lot of good alternative and complementary and even good allopathic medicine treatments here. And I have probably gone to the majority of them here. So I've looked and cared for my body as much as I know how. And yet, when I was talking to a hospice nurse and she went, yeah, you're croaking. And I went, okay, well, I've done all I know to do. It was a relief in one regard because it wasn't having to have to mentally work at figuring it out and chasing this or figuring that out or try that. And it felt not like dying, but it felt like labor, because there's a whole lot going on our planet right now. And that labor pain, as I've talked about before in one of my very first videos about when your birthday's coming, and it's just like that first time you're born, that last 3 months, there's a lot of pressure and it gets tight in there and it's uncomfortable and you're kicking and you want to get out. But it's the baby we wait for, and the baby who chooses the date and the time because of consciousness and the choices they've made. And so I feel like I'm going through another labor, and it's now time to move on to the next level and go, okay, there's more. And I want to talk about those details, but I wanted to give you kind of a fun and not so scary looking, serious stuff, but this is what graduation is looking like for me. So I have an Earth mission, and as I said, I'm here to graduate this third dimension time-based system with some Dharma points. We have karma and we have Dharma, and to leave the place behind better than you find it. And that's what's in it for me. And I identify as a star seed coming here to experience this life in its fullest and create, opportunities for growth. Really? We're not here just to eat a candy bar and leave the trash behind. By the way, where is my candy? I brought some candy. I needed some chocolate. And later in the afternoon, I was going to need some chocolate. But it was going to be about what can we do? What's this planet all about? Why are we here? And I've spent most of my life trying to figure that out and trying to understand that on the individual level and the collective level. And the stories we are told are, I'm going to blow this up a little bigger so you can see more of that and less of me. The stories we are told, we don't get all the stories we're told. So let me talk about the stories we haven't been told today. And so that's what this time with you is going to be about. All right, there's my screen. Okay. So what's my mission? Well, I spent looking at what makes us human. Who are we and why are we here? And one of the things I've learned is there's a field of study called transpersonal dynamics, psychology, and it looks at psychometric tools. And these are the modern ones we know are like Myers-Briggs or Strong's or Princeton Review. But the ancient ones are Mayan astrology and Western astrology or third dimensional astrology, the Vedic astrologies, the combinations like human design that have done that. And so looking at those have been an important tool of understanding, well, what did you come here for? And I'll get to that a little further on. So, gotta tell you a story. So, I realize our biggest issue here is fear on this planet, and that is the biggest controller that keeps us in our lane, as you would say. And for some reason, I, at the age of 19, realized fear is the only thing going to hold me back, and that I needed to face that fear and do that which would scare me so that I could do what I want to do. You know, I'm a pig, I'm a Sagittarian, I want to have a good time, I'm here for the party. So I had a friend and I said, take me rappelling. I thought, what could I do that would scare me that I could go through it and feel through that? And so we got up on the mountain and he hooked me up like this young lady is here. And my knees are already starting to shake. And as they were shaking, now I started going down the mountain. I said, we got to get down there somehow. But I realized there was a space, which was really about a 90-degree space going down. And once I got past that 90 degrees, the fear was gone. And I went, oh, and then I went down the mountain, got up, did it again. Found again that 90-degree space was where the fear was. Hit me. Fear is a space you go through, baby. You don't let it stop you. Because if I let the thought of fear, it would have never got me up on the mountain. And I got hooked up and ready to go, and I said, we're going to go through this. So that has been my practice. I'm not a meditator, but I'm a fear chaser and pushing those away. So they're not the triggers that hold me back. And I'm so grateful to have a 93-year-old auntie who just told me, she said, you know, fear has allowed you to go places not too many people will go, or the lack of fear. And I went, oh, well, yeah, I had that practice. And so it's been that which has held many of us from even looking at dying, death, transition, reincarnation, whatever we want to call it, that next dimension. But I'm like, don't let that hold you. Yeah, there's so much more. Don't let that hold you back. Let yourself explore what the possibilities can be. Don't worry, death will come when it wants to. There are, you don't have to push it. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to run from it. It'll get here when it gets here. So know, though, that the fear of it will keep you from preparing and keep you more seriously from living, because you won't go out and take that trip. You won't go out and on that date or try that thing or see something new. So push yourself and make that part of your list. That's my tip number one. Seeing fear is the space we go through. And when you have the opportunity to put that fear on the level, remember, it's going to be a short-term thing. You'll go through it and you'll come through the other side. And what's on the other side? I did it. Joy. Woo. Gratitude, relaxation. And remember, remember, scary movies are the best date movies ever. Why? Because when we get afraid, it stimulates our endorphins and we get a rush, we get a high, we get off on it. And we grab onto our partner and we get excited and it feels good. So chase that high of overcoming fear and let it direct you in places because you know what's on the other side. Okay. What's next? I forgot. I have 20 slides. Remember, you forget some things. Okay, come on, little things. Slide forward. All right, here's the next one. So, tip number 2. So I've been listening. I'm always listening. I'm a research librarian. That's how I identify as an oracle. It's about doing the research and reading everything and understanding as much as you can. So I came across this brother, Jorgon, who is done a video called Vistas of Infinity, which I want you to look up, and I'm going to be bringing him up again. And Jorgen identified, now this is a guy who's done it, 40 years of meditation and an artist. So he's learned how to create on the planet, which is what the Mayans say that we are here to do. We are co-creators with the planet. And secondly, we are caretakers of the planet, which I'll get to as well. But he said, the emotional life after death is what we need to pay attention to. Because when our physical body dies, our internal world, what we think and what we feel, becomes our external reality. Now, in this world, I say it this way. I said, when we are manifesting, we have to be careful what we think about and what we want. Now, it took me 2 years to figure this one out because I'd always say, okay, I don't want this to happen. This is not what I want. And it would happen. And I was like, how come that's not working? Why am I getting what I don't want when I say this is not what I want? Because my thought is on the not. It's the visual of what I don't want, and my emotions are resonating with that. And I'm going to show you a diagram about that and why that matters. So Jurgen says, okay, you got to remember there are and a great example of this is in the movie that Robin Williams did on What Dreams May Come, if you remember that, it's from the 90s. And this is him going to try to rescue his wife who suicided. And so his story and the visuals are phenomenal and the colors are incredible. But he talks about these layers of consciousness and where you can go and reach people and communicate to them on those levels. But what's most important here is that we have these emotions now to work with, and that we can traverse those and address those with tools, simple tools like an apology. That's kind of a basic one, but it's not one we probably use on a regular basis. But in the time where we're a little more stressed and a little more short-tempered on our Facebook posts, apologies are good things. Apologies are something we don't see enough of on Facebook posts or any social media or out of our mouths. So using these tools to not hold you back and make them drive you forward instead of letting these emotional triggers hold you in dark spaces. Because like all things, we got layers. And I want to talk about the layers of this reality and that one. All right, so here we are. Now we can talk about all types of consciousness. And I want to tell you now, in a medical term, it's being asleep versus being awake. Now we got it. That's conscious. I'm awake. Woke, as my people say. I love my people. They always bring it short and quick. Is you woke yet? And that has really now taken more of a political term, which is not how I identified with it originally. And then I had learned years ago from the Hunan, the guy wrote a book about the Huna tradition, or the indigenous Hawaiian, about levels of consciousness and being unconscious and, just kind of my football, beer drinking, loving, voting or non-voting, shooting and hanging out and not really caring. Unconsciousness, or we call it conscious, and going, we need to be concerned about our neighbors and their hearts and their emotions and the level of communication that brings sensitivity to our being. And it changes us as a being because we are paying attention to new levels of awareness that we may have not paid too much attention to in the past. And then there's super consciousness, where we are not only aware of our human levels of existence, but spiritual levels of existence. And there are dimensions and densities of, when you walk into a space and it feels uncomfortable, and it's like, there's energies here that just don't feel right, or dimensions that you want to explore. And I use this chakra chart because I read a mathematical book on the 12 dimensions. Now, depending on some mathematicians, they'll tell you it's infinite dimensions. I got through the 8th chapter and I went, it's about my pay grade. I said, I'll have to come back and try to read this again a few years later. But we understood the chakras as this, the nice little color charts, but then there's more, and we stand on different levels of chakra. So we, as third dimensional beings, stand on second dimensions, and we're and then there's the lower dimensions above those, which have been called the plant or the animal life. But there's more. And the more we're aware of, and they all have their nice little color-coded charts, but the more we can do stuff with them. And that we, as human beings, have access to this now, that we can tap into and go, oh, there's more understanding. I remember I spent a summer at University of Michigan, upping my math skills. And the day I learned to do a parabola and figured out the math formula for a parabola, it was like a mental orgasm. I was like, oh, I get it. And it just like popped open a part of my brain that didn't open before. And I've had other popping opens with the Kundalini experience. And that's like a fire hose of energy going through your body that starts connecting these areas of light that move through. And it's just like, oh, okay, I get it. The light bulb starts going on. Or if you ever saw the movie Flowers for Algernon, that was a movie in the 70s, again, another Robin Williams movie, about this, a guy who was so severely mentally underdeveloped, not handicapped, but underdeveloped. And they did, and the Algernon was the name of the mouse. And they started testing on a mouse and gave him some drugs. And all of a sudden, the mouse got smart. It was the smarter mouse. And so they gave the drugs to the man. And all of a sudden, he could do algebra and physics and read Shakespeare. And his intelligence level just soared. And then the mouse died. And we got Flowers for the Algernon. And as the man died, he so appreciated what he had gained. It wasn't about loss. It was about still what we'd gained. And that knowledge he would never lose. And that you could never take away. And that was one of those that was like, ooh, that was a verklempt moment for me. It was information is power. And you can never have that taken away once you have it. So he had the memories. And so I was like, oh, yeah, okay, this is me. This cemented my geekdom into researching and having to learn more and understand more. So there's that. All right. And then there was me. And so my first work was in human resources. And I've been a headhunter and a career coach. And I wrote 3 books on career tips, and written other stuff currently, but that was how I first started. And so I looked at the 5 senses, and I was fascinated by that. And so my training and working with people was But what if we lost sight? And how do we, the trust elements, and how do we communicate if we don't have voice, and kinesthetically, and understanding that, and then learning neuro-linguistic programming and understanding how to use these skills that are already natural, neuro, the mind, linguistic, language, programming, retraining the mind with language and being able to use that. Later on, I came to understand the 5 intelligences of the body, meaning neural cluster, brain cells that are dispersed throughout the body. And so they are spiritually clustered in 5 areas. And I learned this from a brother, Guy Baldwin, who was a leather man in Dallas and wrote about this in the use of relationships. I got geekier and went down and said, well, let's look at these brain clusters and these neural cells, and what's this all about? And the spiritual is clustered in the pineal and pituitary glands, and there are neural cells that are there. Intellectual brain, but mainly prefrontal cortex, where we are storing memory and where programming happens. Emotional, HeartMath Institute has done a lot of research on the emotional intelligence of the body. Instinctual, gut instinct, 5, the biggest brain we've got. This is the ones: fight, flight, relax, sexual attraction, fear. Those are the ones that respond and teach your body how to move quickly when it needs to, whether your mind is working or not. Instinctual brain works first. And then sexual. And it has a whole brain of its own, and it works really well when you're young, not so much when you get older. But I like to call that, for guys, I call it the Peter meter. If the Peter meter works, there's attraction. And I have videos on either YouTube or Facebook on all of these. They're all about an hour each, looking at each one of these and looking at how they're formed, what builds them, what's the breakdowns, what chemicals that are affecting them, and then how do we support them and make them useful to us. So understanding us was the first goal. And that's the role of the oracle. As I'm sorry, I probably didn't mention, I call myself a modern oracle, because for me, I really resonated with that phrase, know thyself. And I added, know thyself more, because there's a lot more to know about ourselves. So I've spent my time looking at maps. And as I said, the psychometric tools, looking at human design, which is the one up there in the upper right, and which is a combination of 6 different systems. It is the Western astrology, the Kabbalah, Ayurvedic, I Ching, quantum physics, and neutrino science, and looking at all of them and how they affect them. I really like to call that one the operating manual for being human, because it is so painfully accurate. You're just like, oh, okay, let me get my life and drive it, because I look at us as the vehicle. We are the car. We're the car, and we open up that windshield every time we open up our eyes. We're driving and paying attention to that. The older ones, Mayan on the left, Mayans looked at purpose and synchronicity. They got time down. They understood synchronicities of time. And we live in a duality, polarity, time-based system. So understanding time matters. And they look at purpose. Why are we here as humans? And they have a formula for humans, that it's time multiplied by energy or your focus equals your art. And humans are here to create art. We are co-creators on this planet. Third, face reading. Now this was fun, because this I learned from an attorney in Dallas from my Human Resource Management Association that brought him in for our annual meeting. And I was quite the skeptic. I was like, yeah, right. I didn't know anything about face reading or palm reading or any of that. I was just kind of like, okay, didn't clueless. But he was an attorney that used it for jury selection, right? He could tell personalities and decision makings based on the wrinkles and the lines and the shape of your eyebrows, etc., on your face. And again, I wasn't a real fan until, 2/3 of the way during one of the breaks. I came up and said, okay, read my face. And he said, you're quite shy as a child and you learned how to use humor to overcome it. And I went, wait, you can see that in my face? Okay, where is that? And so I bought the book and studied and continued to do so. And it is a shortcut for reading, especially as an HR person, because you are looking at past performance to make future predictive behaviors. And it matters. I didn't get paid if they quit and the job didn't work out. So I needed to understand where I was putting someone, and especially somebody in sales, that they were the I was talking to Andy the other day. We were talking about, you always got a salesperson that had issues with their father, always trying to prove that their dad would love them because they would work hard. And anything they didn't make was always just like, oh, I feel, and beat themselves up. So we didn't have to do the work. So they did the extra work for us. So being able to read someone really paid off, and it saved us time and I find it quite the shortcut. But don't worry, if I see you in the street, I won't be reading your face unless you ask me, and then I still might not do it. But it's because I feel like it's a bit of an invasion of privacy. I should also add, not only can you read faces, but iridology is reading eyes, palms, feet, and butt. I'm not very good at butt reading, but I can tell a few things from your butt. But you can read the butt too, which made me look at our human species as like, we're kind of a biomechanical type, right? We all have kind of similar things going on, so we're quite readable. And looking at the social sciences, which is what all of these tools are, allows us to understand us as a species. And so we stop beating ourselves up. That's the main reason. And then finally, my other favorite is the Taoist or the Chinese astrology, because the Chinese was all those people trying to get along, understood our animal natures and understood the health aspects. And Chinese astrology is just as deep as any of the other ones. But what I loved about it was a nice way of going, okay, I understand the animal, and they will be get along with certain animals or not. And it's a good tool for understanding who we are and what we bring to the table. So did I number that tip? Okay, what tip am I on? Oh Lord, here I'm moving too fast with my technology. Hold on. Go back. Got it? Okay. Move along and stop. Okay, so tip number 4. I got my little numbers at the bottom, better move that. I met a brother. Okay, hold on with me with this one because this is cool. Knowing thyself is critical. I look at this life experience using game theory, that it's the matrix. We're here to play. And there's a score, whether you want to look at it or not, but you're scoreable. Now, Christians know it as, are you going to get in heaven or hell? And I never like that, because how do I know? Because it's this unmeasurable bar of goodness that I could never feel I could get to. In Buddhism, you do merit making, and that's what karma and dharma is about. Make some merit. And I went, oh, is there another way? And so then I met this brother, and I met him through listening to another show. And I've done 3 podcasts with him because I love his stuff. And I'm like, just do the math, bro. Let's do the math. It's not real until we do the math. His name is Gary Carson. His website is icheckyoursoul.com. And so on the last show, I had him do 3 popular speakers, the Dalai Lama, Bruce Lipton, and Seven Bomar, this young brother. And I said, let's look at the skull sword. And I see a nice range between 2 and 69. And he's at a 56, and you want a 50% and above. Oh, I see typos. I apologize. He's a star seed. He identifies as a star seed. And usually when I'm looking at, I put up cycle complete with looking at how much. And if he wasn't a star seed, that would be a percentage, because star seeds come here to the planet, live a life, learn the lessons, time-based system. It's nice and slow. You get a life, you get some time, figure things out, and then you go home or go where you want to go next. If it's not, you look at how many cycles of completion you are in this realm. Good karma, bad karma, it's a multiple of 32 times more good karma and hardly any bad karma. And I'm like, right on, dude, good for you. And then qualified for Simpson is simply 50% or above. It's a passing grade at 50%. Yay! And if not, what do? Some dharma. Do some good. Do some good for other people. Do good for yourself. Don't avoid your triggers. Deal with your fears. Work out your shit is how you deal with that. But knowing your score gives you that confidence. And as Gary says, only people that are on their spiritual path ever contact me. And I'm like, of course, everybody else didn't even know we could know. But if you're a gamer, you get it. You get the scoring thing. Of course you do, because you're competing with each other or yourself. And you're always trying to raise your score. So if you do that in a game, do that for your life. That's what I call self-love and self-care, in a way that, you go in for annual checkups, you get your blood work done, you do those other things, check your scores, check your karma scores, and find out who you are. And don't let these things hold you back, because this is the conscious living stuff we need to know. Then I want to go back to Jurgen again, and Jurgen's book, because you need to do some reconnaissance reading. And yes, he's got tons of video, and I'll do a clip of one of his up here, but do the stuff that's going to fill your spirit. It's one thing to get out of fear. It's another thing to get into excitement and joy and going, what's the possibilities? It's one thing I learned as an expat, and my first pacifier was a passport. I've been traveling all of my life. And when I make a choice for moving to a location, there's got to be a push factor and a pull factor. And the push factor is why you want to go. It's either pollution or traffic or too many people, or there's no job opportunities, and met a lover, what's it going to be? The pull factor is what's there, what's next, what's beautiful, what do I want to create, what's the possibilities? And Brother Jurgen here has really laid it out. And again, a 40-year meditator and an artist who gets creation. And he identifies himself as a reporter. He said, I just came in, saw what I saw, and wrote it down and came and shared it back with you. And the folks that have read his books got a lot of 5 stars, over 111 reading or reviews. Some of his quotes: essential reading for anyone who will die. Expectedly good reading, unexpectedly good reading, and mind-blowing, because that's what that's about. It's taking us into things that we don't see. And I'm not giving you a full scope of his work because it's just too rich. And if you've seen me do anything with Mandelbrot's and looking at the creation, and one of the things he did, he's an older guy, and he did LSD when it was legal. I'm like, back in the day. And he talked about seeing these visuals. And I have done enough hallucinogenics and psychoactives that I go, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I see these dimensional shifts that go, oh. And a Mandelbrot is a beautiful piece of mathematics. It's just mathematic formula that looks artistic. But then you can see 3-dimensional versus 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 dimensions of creation. And so you see these garden cities that's how people live. And I have an expectation that if I can create at this level, which is why we're here, then we can learn how to create at the next level. And that's what we're here to do, is to practice creating our art and moving forward in that, and in a way that we create from our heart and making beautiful statements of the realities we want to be in. And there are levels, and I remember again from the movie, What Dreams May Come, there are these lower levels based on emotions that are negative. And again, you don't want to manifest your nots, you want to manifest your wants, but you need the practice of doing that. And controlling your mind and your thoughts is a way to do that. Get to that. And Jurgen again says, whatever is imagined becomes reality. And he described it once. He said, instead of when you see a flower, you become the flower. You are the redness of the rose, and you are the smell of it, and it becomes multidimensional. And I'm like, oh, that's a level I want to play with, and go, that's a level of creation we haven't even begun to taste or experience. And if we can build worlds on like that, I'm like, Joe, what we waiting on? We got stuff to do. And fifth dimension is accessible to us now. So I want to, let's stop sharing that screen, because I want to show you some tools here that you need to understand. Where is it? You're not here. Of course, everybody want to chat with me now, so I got to close all my Facebook messages. And I want to show you and explain to you how the physical body manifests. And it's called electromagnetic pulse. All right, it's coming. It's coming. Move too fast, move too slow. You get options. All right, here we go. So this is our brain working. These are neurons. Neurons connecting. So when you have a thought and you spend more time thinking about that thought, the neuron gets bigger, right? So this is the mind at work. Thoughts are electrical neurons. And now let's go back to the heart. Here I am showing you there. The heart is magnetic. It has a magnetic field around it. And so what you think about electrical thoughts and you emote, you attract to yourself, right? Electromagnetic pulse. That's who we are. That's what makes our being so freaking special. That's the magic of being human. That's why everybody wants to manipulate us and use our brains, because if they can program our brains, they get advantage and we follow the programming. But when we're in control of our own creation and our own thoughts, our own minds, we're doing our own pulsing and bringing into our lives. That's how we manifest. That's the magic of being human. You bring it to you, baby. And you go, oh, I was just thinking about here. Here it is. Right. How it works. This is what we're supposed to do. And so we have this ability to create. Now, let me get to my controversial piece. I was a missionary, and so I spent a lot of time reading some books. But here's what I've come to. All is God, because it is. It just is, period. All is God, period. Versus what we have been raised with, which are called ego crutches, are the religions. And the religions are in our head, because that is where the programming goes. And that's what shapes how we behave. But because they are, and not the ego of greed and selfishness and that personal ego, but the crutch of safety, the crutch of comfort, the crutch of, oh, I can trust this. And one of the things that's interesting now, I see, with the virus talk and the worry, and we worry about the statistics and is that true and where did you get that information? We want someone to tell us. How do you know? Where'd that information come from? We want to be told how to think so that we can calm down and believe it, because our mind wants to be massaged and not our instinct, because that brain isn't active at this point, but our mind is wanting to be that. But I'm like, we need to equal over and free ourselves from those crutches and realize that we are putting the crutch above us. So as I identify, you are a God. You, all is God. You are God. Goddess, if you want to feminize it or do some other transgenderizing to it, but you are part of all of that, and that you cannot deny that. And that is a responsibility, not just oh, well, isn't that nice? No, it's work. And there's a responsibility in that creation, because remember, we are co-creators in this third dimensional reality. We are here to do something. We are artists. We're using our time and our energy to create our art. And as we do so, we evolve, all of us, all of our conscious beings. So then I get the question, well, why leave? Well, why don't you stay and help on this level? And I go, well, we got some issues on this level. As I say, as an African American woman or a Native American woman with a small net worth, I don't have the influence that I have used and have been exposed to. And now that we are all being controlled by, because you're not sitting in my living room having this conversation. We are no longer having access to that because we are being controlled by our media to access the information in a limited manner. But that won't last. That, we go through our phases, and I like to say we are the future, because this is how we do it now. And staying and helping on this side is an important issue, and I don't negate the value of that. As small as my podcasts and my little videos and all this little stuff that I research for me so that I can understand what I'm doing next. But I share it because I'm like, well, let's think about this. We are on a planet called an Earth ship. It moves. It has an elliptical pattern that it goes through every 25,000 years and has different cycles. And we have to go through all of the zodiac signs, and we are moving into the age of Aquarius, but it takes 100 years to go from one age to another. And we are just finishing up that patriarchal one, which is going to go down pretty, rough. As the matriarchal age did, there were abuses and manipulations in that age as well. So as we move forward, we will watch these cycles. And like the fifth dimension sang, the age of Aquarius started in 69, but we just got 50 years in. So it's the next 50 years that we are still moving into this new age. Biblically, it said we'll get 1,000 years of peace. I'm like, only 1,000? Then what happens? Then what? So y'all who are still here working and dealing, we're all going to be here because there's that immortality issue that we haven't quite addressed yet, but I'm going to get to, that we've got to deal with. And again, with time-based systems, Duality, polarities, we've got to work it out in this one. And we are all been on the, okay, let's figure out balance. Let's figure out zero polarity or zero neutrality so that we are in a pace of not being triggered, not being stimulated negatively, and that we can positively move forward and thrive, not just survive. So I get it. I hear you. However, let me mention what else I see on this planet, and that we have a scalability problem. Because of the things I mentioned, and because I'm a poor Black woman in Ecuador, and I'm going, okay, how do I scale up? And one of the things I learned from the Singularity University was that their planning models were to plan to change the world positively for 1 billion people. So you're not just making a widget for, a small little business in Iowa. You got to think scalability. How do you scale the world? 1 billion people. That's 1/7 of us. What does that look like? And how do you scale? And for me, it was like, well, it's not going to be all on Facebook. Sorry. It's just not doable. And it has to be on a level that the 100th monkey piece works. And the 100th monkey is that the story of the 100th monkey is that they tested monkeys and gave them a banana and threw it in the sand. And the older monkeys would take the banana and it peeled and just kind of brush it off and would eat it anyway. And finally, the younger monkeys would take these bananas, go to the water, wash them, and then eat them. And then at one stage, that 100th monkey doing that, the whole collective got it, like magically, and they all did it. So we didn't have to train monkey 200. All of a sudden, it was a collective wisdom, a collective knowledge that we all had. And so I've been looking for, that's the kind of scalability that we need. It's like, how do we move to that level? And for me, it was like, okay, well, we need to move up. And third dimensional reality has problems and limitations, time, death, duality, polarity, Illuminatis, those little issues, taxes, health issues, we're being poisoned, all of those things going, we got issues here. And we got another issue. This planet cycles. As I said, it's an elliptical pattern. Every 25,000 years, Mother Gaia goes, y'all got to go. I'm going to freeze y'all out. We're going to start all over. And I'm like, what you mean we got to go? But yeah, she does that. And I go, well, wait a minute. What's wrong with us? We got to get frozen out every time. And it's the indigenous who survive who learn how to go underground and build shelters and find another way. And I'm like, I don't want to live underground. I don't want to do that again. I'm like, Gaia, can we talk about this? I go out in my little woods and talk to the guy and go, girlfriend, what's going on? Why is this the planetary strategy for us? And I'm also told this may be our last time around. So I'm like, well, we better get it right this time. And so my looking at designing is going, well, can we move up a level? Can we move up in how we operate as a collective, how we see the world, not as, I was raised with the term manifest destiny, that we are here to conquer and manifest our personal destinies on the planet. And that gives us a dominant approach to the world, but not a holistic approach, not one where we're responsible, not where we're in the caretaker role as co-creators on the planet. There's a responsibility for being here. And as an earth ship that moves around, it operates under maritime law. And maritime law is the law of the ocean. And that allows colonization, colonialism to happen, not only of our planet, but other planets as well. And so we've got to pay attention to these as the structure that we are part of and that we inhabit. So I'm looking to scale up my game. And so I see as an opportunity And I'm reminded of the scripture from Esther. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. Oops. And so who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And as a military brat, my father was gone half of my life. And he died when I was 15, and I only lived with him 7 years of those 15. And what he said to me in his letters to me was dream first class. That didn't make any sense to me as a kid. And it finally took me until I got into my 40s that I went, oh, dreaming. Oh, daydreaming. Oh, planning goals bigger than me. And the term came out then, BOG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And I went, oh, well, okay, how big can I dream? And I remember James, my first husband, said to me, he said, you know, most of us are sitting around a room going, yeah, how bad can they be? Thinking about bad guys. And there's other people sitting around a room going, how bad can we be? And it's a matter of perspective. What do you want? What do you want to accomplish? And so dreaming became, oh, well, can I affect the planet? Can I, black girl from Maine of all places, how much can I change? How much can I affect the dynamics of the whole? And then the first thing that said to me, and I said, well, let's save the world. That's what we need to do. I'm like, because we got some problems here. And whether somebody's shooting at us, throwing us at war, manipulating us, dumbing us down, whatever it is, we got some issues here. We need to help us all. Then I go, how are we going to do that? And I had no clue. Still have no clue. And then I realized, electromagnetic pulse. It'll come to me. The answers will come to me. And so I learned how to just ask better questions. How can we do that? How can we solve these issues? How can we look beyond? Like Einstein said, you can't solve the problems on this level. You need to up your scale of understanding and thinking and move it up. And so okay, got it. And the other issue that came up was ego. Girl, you got a big ego. I'm like, well, you kind of need one to address those kind of things. These are big scale issues. Being the shy, I don't think I can do that, is not going to work. And having the practice of dealing with fear went, well, that's the only thing holding me back is being afraid to try. So I said, okay, let's do so. I'm going to get to the practical stuff, but I want to hold on a minute because I want to show you something else. Hold on. Okay. Stop sharing and then sharing again. All right. This is a talk I did a couple weeks ago for a group, Our Planet and Our Sovereignty. And I wanted to bring this up because, again, I want you to be empowered with the role of being a human, and that this is something all of us have a responsibility to do. And our sovereignty here, it's our planet, our home, we're riding with mama, is to do those two things, our co-creation and our caretaking role. Now, I did this for the Global Healing Rally on last week sometime. I don't have to do dates. Oh, a week ago. It says about a week ago. And it'll go through, again, these steps of how do we build this empowerment of being ourselves and being able to move that. And I said, when you know your life maps, you know what you came here to do, and then you start doing it. then there's an opportunity to start building for what you want next. Because you know how to dream, you know how to create, you know how to not let fear hold you back. And this is a skill set. It's just not, and no, I didn't have to do 40 years of meditation. Whew, but I've learned how to do so. And so I'm like, okay, we can do this and we can access this and we have the ability to make it our realities. All right. All right. So enough of that. Thank for sharing the DC picture. This is good. Now I want to get to the practical stuff. How y'all doing? Is this making any sense? Oh, wrong window. Where is it? There's my PowerPoint. Oh. Don't tell me I lost it. I have a tendency to jump around and, oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Let me give it back to you. And I'm using a mouse. I haven't used a mouse in a while. All right. So here's the practical stuff on just on undying, undying. And you want to check yourself before you wreck yourself. As I said, Vilka Dying is a great little website that a friend of mine here, Carol Dennis, who I highly respect, and who has worked in helping others cross over and helping not only in the physical, but the spiritual and connecting. And you can just Google Vilka Dying. It's a local website for my Vilcabamba community. But you don't need that. All the information before, during, and after the process is there that you want to pay attention to. And you just apply it to your community. And then deaf cafes, which are probably more of an American and European thing, but start one. Start a conversation and talk about this. Because again, you need the practice of getting over your fear. You remember, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? 10,000 hours of practice. How do you get over your fear? Practice, and talk about the things that make you go, oh, and make you turn away from, because you can't afford that. You can't afford it. It's too late in the game to be ignorant. And we need to not look at the things we should, because we won't do some stuff. We won't plan. We won't tell somebody. And as I'm going through the steps of my own life, going, oh, it was my sister Ayana who said, and let's talk about your legacy business continuation plan. I went, oh, right. I could still sell a book, after I'm gone, and I can't offer my personal services yet, but I'm going to bring that up in a minute. But I can leave stuff behind for you to follow, as other writers have done before me. And we like to say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but 1,000 words is worth a heck of a lot more pictures. And so as we share and as we put out, we do it for those that come ahead. And your work, your purpose, you're not doing it, not doing it for the money today, even though, yes, we are, but we're doing for what value it leaves and gives going forward. So prepare yourself, do the basic stuff, be responsible. It's like, do we have checkbooks anymore? Balancing your checkbook? I hardly ever did, but keeping food in the fridge and doing those basic things. And now that you're home more, it's kind of cool. Everybody home. Isn't that kind of cool? Everybody's home. Everybody's, and I can say, are you busy? No, you ain't, because you at home. You ain't got nothing to do. Stay at home. We're all sitting at home trying to figure stuff out. What's next? And then let me talk to you about some cool people you need to know. This is my roommate, Gary Morgan. I call him my priest because as the oracle, the role of the oracle was to sit up on the tall stool, at least the ones in Delphi, inhale ethylene and start prophesying. And then they needed the priest to help interpret that and making sense of the visions that came up. And so, and integration of those visions matter and making sense of your personal ones. And if you've done any medicine journeys or you dream, dreams are emotional journeys. They're just showing you stories that you haven't interpreted and incorporated yet and integrated in your life. If you always dreamed of being chased, that's because you're not facing something. So look at those things. And 10 years of ayahuasca, 10, 15 years medicine man, 30 years of psychonaut, and 30 years of chef, which is the part I really appreciate, the chef part, because that boy can cook. But find that. He's online, he's on Facebook, Gary Morgan, get to him and work with him and look at your stuff individually, because it's all an individual journey. It's your movie. It's your movie. You create the movie every time you open your eyes, because you make a choice of where you're going to look, where you're going to drive. You know, in Thailand, they said when you're driving in a car, when you're in a car, it's like being in a movie. When you're on a motorcycle, you are the movie. But we are the movie makers. And so this world is about what are we going to create with it, positive or negative. So being in control of your thoughts, the electrical pulses that you're making happen, and your emotional magnetics, make it a positive story, because it also works with depression. You can magnetize negativity that way too. So watch your thoughts. And that's tip number 8. So now tip number 9. So here's what happened to me. I kept getting these visions. And for me, that space in between sleep and awakeness is where things pop in most for me. And I kept seeing this red and white striped tint. Now, the one I've seen was prettier even than this one. It was because it was thinner stripes, a lot more elegant. And at the top, it had this beautiful yellow glowing light coming out of it. And I was like, oh, what's that? And 3 mornings in a row, I kept seeing this thing. And behind it was another tent. And there was a whole bunch of people in that tent. And even behind that was this big swirly thing and big white space. And I was like, And what I realized, because the tent, made my heart jump. I was like, ooh, party space. I want to go there. I want to check that out. I want to see what's going on in that spot. And I've said to people, all right, and this is when I had made that, connect the dots. This is what's going on. I'm seeing what's coming next. And I say to people, go find me here. When you cross over and you're lost, find me here. Because that other tent in the back has been called the way station, where people go when they're stuck or they're lost or they're in lower realms of dimensional understanding, and they can't get up and go and move and start creating because they never learned how. They didn't know how to create. They didn't know that they were dead and that this is the next dimension that they're able to work and operate from. So to get some help, come to the party tent. I'll try to help you out there. But I also want to tell you, I'm not doing this as I'm going and I'll see y'all later. Dang it, I just deleted the page I needed, but it's okay. I'm going to pull it out. Because let me take a minute and get this done. What I needed to show you is some technology, right? It's like, ooh, we got toys, And the technology is a ability to communicate, and it's a website called Atran. Here we go. Atrans.org, which is a trans communication. And these are the guys. All right, sharing the screen. It's coming. Here we go. Here we go. Thank you. I see that bold compliment. Thank you. So these are transcommunication. These are the folks that I have been looking at, researching, and with Court, my admin assist, who is brilliant. And I think has higher soul score than I do. I'm like, go ahead, kid, go for it. And they have been doing research, and there's an amazing video, about 10 years ago. Dan DeBring, I think, did the video on talking to folks that had died. And I mean, not just, oh, find the gold, but it's like, hey, Harry, it's me. That kind of direct communication. And they've learned how to use technology to make that work. So I'm like, oh, we have technology. And right now I'm using Skype and a cell phone and working and finding the space to be able to start practicing that and start communicating. And so my intention as a creator on the next dimensional levels is to communicate to you from there about what I see and what I want to help you map out and figure out and show you how to get it, show you the address of the tent if necessary. Just like Jorgen, he's a reporter. He reports what he saw. And I'm like, well, I'm a mapper. I want to get there a little more and go, let's figure this out. Let's learn that. And you need boots on the ground, as we say. You need people to see that. And you need more than one. You need us all to see that. And so as I look at the levels of creation, my work was to get as trigger-free, fear-free as possible so I can move up these dimensional levels and figure out how to drive and get there so that we know what we need to do and that it's possible for all of us. So I'm playing with the technology, and they said practice makes perfect. So we will figure it out and keep doing it until we got it right. And those who are mediums have a better ability to do this naturally. But again, I saw a scalability problem that this one-on-one is not going to work. It needs to be at a level that I can reach multiples. And that means we need some technology, because I bet you're going to tune in if I tell you, hey, she's gone, but she's back. You'll want to hear that. And so I want to show you that. And if I can make the pictures happen to go with it, but I will be working on that end of it so that we are not lost. We are not left behind. We are not frustrated. This is what I would be if I don't have some information, and I'm a planner. So I want to plan appropriately. Okay. So what else have I got for you? I gotta talk about me. All right, hold on. There's more me stuff. Where you can find me. My stuff is here. Other things I've talked about, the videos on Gary Carlson's videos, The Magic of Being Human, the intelligences. Ooh, there's a good one with Gary and I, the Oracle and the Priest. I was doing a series on Ask the Oracle where you can call in with questions, and I like getting them cold and just getting hit. I want to do that one more time and offer that again. Give me a minute, I need some resting time. But just places to find my stories. Transhumanism. Oh, I did a great interview with Sophia Hansen. Remember the AI robot? That was a good one. That's when you realize, the capabilities of AI is to mimic us. As we have been made in the image of our creator, as we were told, so is Sophia, made in the, and I love what Penny Kelly says, who's another woman who's had multiple Kundalini experiences and contactee experiences of seeing, as a reporter, going to other worlds and seeing how those worlds operate. She said there's worlds that are totally run by AI, and there's worlds that have no AI at all. And there's aggressive ones and even ones that are more primitive than ours, and some that are high tech and amazing. And so when you see those and you've got experienced people who have seen it and come back and tell you the story about it, then you go, okay. So look for those pioneers that go and make those things available to you. You know, we've done enough research on our own planet. And, you know, I remember the argument, why should we go to space when we can discover the sea? And I'm like, because we can. That's why. Because we can. That's why we go look. That's why we go ask the questions and ask more questions. Don't be afraid to ask. And the first person you ask is yourself in your own quiet moment, because that's where the answers are going to come. You don't need to go online to look it up. You think the thought and desire the answer and wait for it to magnetize to you. YouTube will give it to you because you magnetized it, baby. Bring it up to yourself and let that be how you learn how to drive. But you've got to learn how to not only get over fear, but trust yourself. And that's what instinctual intelligence will allow you to do. You learn how to trust your own instinct. And that way you're not easily deceived, you're not easily fooled, you won't be manipulated and controlled, and you can move down the road a lot faster for yourself. Capiche? Capiche. Okay. And what else I got for you? Oh, I'm probably going to tell you. I'll say buy a book while you're waiting. For me, I would appreciate you buy a book. I have 3 books out on Amazon, and they are my. Most of my life, I've been talking about sex. I didn't expect that. But I've written 8 books, but for some reason, a lot of them are about sex. And let me share the screen. Most of y'all have seen this already, so I don't have to show it to you. But I'm pulling it up because there may be somebody new. And what's currently available are these 3. And the first book is a collection of short stories, female short stories about their first kiss, their first period, the first time they made love, their first retirement, discount. So these first in women's lives, and sharing these stories so that we don't feel alone, that we know we've all gone through something and have that feeling of understanding, and that we get each other. My second book was my second one that's available as All My Heroes Were Hoes, Life Lessons from the Dungeon. And that is my experience from being a dominatrix and the 20 years. And I had a lot of fun. And my dominatrix years experience were all really learning about human nature. And I learned, once you learn someone's kink, you understand a person and what their drivers are, what the things they fear, what the things they crave. I'm really always curious mostly about politicians, which unfortunately they're usually the darkest. But looking at the things that drove me and pushed me to dig deeper into myself and understand my own nature, and not shaming my nature. Because remember, I started as a missionary. Did I not mention that? I was 12 years a missionary from the age of 20 to 32. And then went back to understanding the kink world in a broader scope and went, this is a lot better if we can just trust ourselves and accept who we are, that we both have spirituality and sexuality, and they need to work together and not shame each other and be in alignment with each other. Because otherwise we lead dysfunctional lives. You know, we've had trauma, we become dysfunctional, we disassociate, we don't look at, we get scared, we put ourselves in a box and we don't ask the questions of how will we heal. And that's your first question: how do I heal myself? Or how do I heal? What do I need to know next? What do I do next? And my newest book, Owning Masculinity, which is an Amazon bestseller, I'm very pleased to say, which I probably won't even see any of the money of, but that's okay, is a book looking at, that I was asked to write, addressing the sexual abuse of the masculine. Because as most women know who are in intimate relationships with men, they don't talk a lot. They don't tell their stories. And I was asked to look at, from my perspective of as a dominatrix working with men, what kind of stories have you heard? Because I've heard a lot of them. And I've worked with men in working through their trauma and working through their fear, pushing their envelopes and pushing their own abilities to get through their fear and their trauma, and working that. And I got to tell you one story, because this is an important one. And this is on one of a couple chapters in my book talks about circumcision. And one chapter is called 1/3 of Men. And it is 1/3 of men on the planet have been circumcised, men and boys. And even as we speak, someone is being circumcised now. And that is a non-medical, non-medical, non-sanitary, non-anesthesia given procedure that is traumatic to the body and causes up to 17 types of physical and emotional damages to the body. One in particular that bothered me was alexithymia. And alexithymia is an emotional trauma to the heart that keeps the inability to feel emotions. And it's like, is that possible? Yes. And yes, it happens to women, because the same skin, the hood of the clitoris, if that is removed, which is done in Muslim communities and in some African cultures, does the same thing. It dulls our emotional senses. And we need that emotional intelligence, because it is a magnet to our desires so that it can be fulfilled. And so having this piece taken away from us as a culture, as a species, is phenomenally shocking to me and highly traumatic for our culture going forward. And I went, wow, what are we going to do about that? And, you know, again, working on this scale, I wrote a book. And yay, thank you for reading the book, those who bought the book. And please share it, read it, give it to your doctor. Look at more information and empower yourself. Because like pedophilia, which I also write about, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And so once you know it, you have a responsibility to, what do I do about it? And information, sharing it is the first step. And preventing it is the next. And stopping it when you can is the next. And so what matters to me now is the communication levels, intimate communication, as I said in my work, that will move us forward, that we don't do the same old, that we aren't these beta humans that have not been able to access higher regions of our brain, theta and gamma, that we can dream and thrive and create and do more than just go along to get along. Okay, that's what I got for you. How about that? It's been an hour and a half. Lord have mercy. I've been talking for a while. My butt hurts. How y'all doing? I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do anymore. I think I'm giving you everything I needed to share with you. where to find me, what I'm writing. And I will say this about books after I'm gone. I intend my books to go to the charity Friends of Bloodstained Men so that we don't, they are activists or intactivists who are here to, uh, again, help the next generations. I have a group on Facebook called Owning Masculinity that is open to understanding this subject matter even more. And so you're welcome to join. It's a public group. I throw my quirky sense of humor in there too, which is my sexual humor mostly. And it's one that I think has some merit for this time. Finally, thank you for being. As the God that you are, talking to you, I have witnessed your creation in the most beautiful ways through the gifts of the psychoactives. And I have seen that creation go, wow, we do some good designs here. And it's an amazing, amazing thing to be a being, in this reality. And guess what? It gets even better because we have immortality. And remember, Star Trek, I was a Star Trek fan, and there was a character called Q who was this infinite being who was quite bored. And I was quite concerned that boredom would be that a driver. And I went, oh, we better stay right here as being humans and just kind of recycle through life. And I'm like, yeah, no. But then there's opportunity to create. And all we need is practice. So in Lakesh, I am another you. And I honor you and thank you. And I know I've forgotten something, and there's more to research. So that be your homework. Keep looking, keep asking the questions, because it's that matters. And as my brother Gary said to me, you learn how to ask the right questions. And I'm like, yeah, that saved my butt many a time, and it'll save yours too. And give yourself credit. You've come this far. Pat yourself on the back, baby. You've done good, and you've got this. And I have no worries. I'll see you when I see you. And I'll talk to you probably even sooner. So look for me, listen for me. I'll help you try to map out the way to what's next, to fifth dimension and beyond. Right? Okay. All right, I'm done. Love y'all. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Okay. All right. Honor you. Thank you. Bye-bye. And I'm hitting the end broadcast button now. Okay, now.